Welcome to another episode of The Financially Free Investor, where you will learn information and strategies on how to become financially independent by investing in real estate, something that is not taught openly in our society today. Financial freedom matters so you can live a bigger life, retire early, and do what matters most to you. Get ready to hear tried and true methods to becoming financially free with your host, Jordy Clark.
All right, everyone, welcome into another episode of The Financially Free Investor. I've got a friend of mine on, Elliot Smith. We met at GoBundance. It's a mastermind we're a part of that helps healthy, wealthy men kind of grow in all areas of their lives. So, Elliot, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Excited to do this. Congratulations on launching the show and signing yourself up for a lot of hard work in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so as you said, we met in GoBundance. Brandon, that was in it for years, that told me I should join it. I actually did a life coaching first with Jason Dries, who's in there as well. And then the next year after I joined GoBundance. And it's really cool because it's, 500 guys a lot of them are like me. And it's hard to find people and couples that are like my wife and I to have conversations with. Money's a goofy topic. And so it's nice to have people that you can talk to that stuff about. I am in Washington State, in Eastern Washington. We live in Tri-Cities. We started out wholesaling, then we went to flipping. And we started buying some rentals, and now we are still doing some wholesaling, flipping, but mainly we are buying small to mid-level apartment complexes. So basically we have an 8-unit, but then we have 24-unit and then up to a 32-unit. And then we have about 60 units in the hopper to be built out. And I'm working on some other deals as well, some development, some comp plan changes and things like that. I also have a lead generation business called Call Magic Leads, lead and data company that we have a call center over in Egypt. And we provide lead generation through cold calling and text messaging to people all over the country, as well as leads managers and do that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit about me. And I work in the business with my wife. She actually currently now is running our company, which is the property management company, the rental company. Mm-hmm. So the 31 units we just bought has a $2 million rehab budget. So we just hired a superintendent. We have property management in-house. We have maintenance in-house. So she's running that whole thing.
Awesome.
So
cool.
I focus more on the sales side of things. That's kind of my skill set.
Yeah, it's great. You're a deal junkie like me. So
yeah.
I love it.
And I love to talk. So hopefully this isn't too long, but I have a podcast as well called The Real Deals, and I do a lot of monologues, and I can just like to hear myself talk, I think.
Yeah. There you go. Why don't you tell us how you got started on your journey to financial freedom?
Yeah. So when I grew up, my dad's a physician, but he also owned a few rentals. He's kind of a slumlord. He bought and sold and fixed and flipped houses back in, before it was on TV everywhere. I tell people all the time, he's like the OG of marketing. If you remember when you go to breakfast or whatever, a restaurant, they had the giant nickel or something like that, where you can buy and sell stuff in there. They put like ads for cars and houses. He would run a We Buy Houses ad in that deal back in the 90s. And so he would take me on appointments. He would talk after the appointment. The reason I bought that house was because I helped this person solve this problem, and I'm going to make money because of X. And so when I was 18, he had bought a house. I went on appointments with him, and I said, hey, let me do the work. I was kind of in construction at the time. So we did all the work. I feel really, really bad for the people that bought that house because it wasn't probably done very well. And so there's probably a lot of duct tape on there, but I realized very quickly that I don't want to be the one swinging the hammer. And so through some life challenges, I just started doing other things, ended up moving to Portland, just outside of Portland in Vancouver in 2010, and didn't have a job. I just got out of rehab, but I just had started talking to my now wife, and she lived in Tri-Cities, and she had bought her first house at 20 years old. And so I got a job at Fran's Bakery. I got sober, got a job at Fran's Bakery, started working 70 hours a week, 60, 70 hours a week, moving up the ladder. That was a bread company that we were delivering bread to stores, and didn't really think much again about real estate. My wife and I then got married about 3.5, 4 years later. We were living in Tri-Cities, but I was then in management, but I hated my manager above me. And so I thought I had a faster path to go back to Portland and grow the ladder. And so we ended up moving back. My wife was not happy, but we turned her house into a rental. And we were talking to my dad, and we're like, do we sell it or do we keep it? He's like, keep it as a rental. That thing's a perfect rental. Well, we still own that rental to this day. She bought it for like $95,000. Our first tenants were, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? But now that thing's probably worth $310,000. It rents for $1,400, $1,300 a month, and we owe like $60,000 on it. So
that's awesome. What's your payment on it?
$480 or something like that. We refied it last year, and it's when like the perfect time, January of 21, right? When it was like, we got rental rates in the twos. So we kept that over. And then when we moved to Vancouver, we bought another house. We're like, okay, well, would be a good rental, but it was, it wasn't like a deal. It was just, we had an agent, bought it on market. And then a year later, we're like, let's go buy another house and keep this as a rental. So next year we did the same thing, like exactly a year is when we closed. And then we were there for a couple of months and we're like, okay, if we do this, we're going to do it every year because we're going to get FHA, right? So owner-occ loans, 5% down. There's got to be a better way. And so I typed into Google and I said, how do I buy more rentals? Bigger Pockets came up. And so kind of got into reading Bigger Pockets and found out that you could send letters to people and started doing that, started wholesaling, did a deal, made $5,000 in our first month, and then did a deal for each month for the next 12 and quit my job. And 2 months after I quit my job, we were both full-time and we made $100,000 in 1 month, 2 months later, and from wholesaling and off to the races. That was more than I made working 70 hours a week for an entire year.
That's awesome. So going back to the first house you ever bought, I think that's an amazing strategy that a lot of people underutilize, where, you're living in a house, and usually first time homes, it's not a giant house. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, maybe 1 or 2 car garage.
It's 2-1, no garage.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So the great thing about that is you're able to get fixed rate debt, and it's a one-way bet, right? So if interest rates go up, you look like a genius. If interest rates go down, like you said, you just refinance, get a lower rate. I did that on a couple of my rentals, and, we dropped the rate from like 5% to 3 1/8 or 3%, like super low. Right. And now we make more every month because our interest is lower. And, it's probably like this in your area, but our rents keep getting pushed up.
Yep.
Right. So I'm sure when you moved out, do you remember what that rented for?
I think it was like 900.
Cool. Do you remember what your payment was?
I think it was like $550 at the time, because my wife got it right when Obama was doing all that stuff with the first time home buyer tax credit and all that stuff. So, and she paid 90 for it. So yeah, it was like 550 or 600. So we were cash flowing okay on it when we first did it.
Yeah. What do you think it was worth when you moved out and could have sold, but chose to rent?
Probably like 120, 125.
A lot of people, what I see is, they get stuck in this, oh, well, I could make X amount of dollars by selling now. And it's this wheelbarrow full of money. They're like, hey, if I sell now, I can get this wheelbarrow full of cash. I've never had this much money before. But if I rent it, like, I'm going to make what? $200 a month, $300 a month. Like, and then the tenants it's always a 3 a.m. phone call with tenants and toilets. Yeah. They're going to clog the toilet and call me at 3 a.m. And, that just never happens. Fast forward, a decade, and that house has gone up 3 times in value. The rents have gone up, and the tenants just keep paying that mortgage off for you.
Yeah. And right? we probably have not, because she remodeled it when she first moved in, new roof, windows, paint, yard. I don't think, maybe then some AC freezing up or something like that, we've had to put any more money into it since we bought it. I mean, that's 2022 now. That was 2015, probably 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so the story I have some good friends that I grew up with. I was in his wedding, and they had a house similar time that we did. And they bought a brand new, it seems crazy to me now, brand new house for like 125. It's like a little 3-2 in Kennewick. They found a house, like 18 months later in Pasco, is bigger, nicer. And they're like, okay, let's sell this. They only were going to make like $8,000 or $9,000 on their house that they had bought for 125. So I'm like, just keep it as a rental, keep it as a rental. And they're like, no, we'll pay off our car or whatever. And I'm like, this is stupid. You should keep this as a rental. Literally, that house right now is probably easy pushing 350, 375. And they probably bought it in 2015. And it's like the perfect rental. Like, cause it's like, it was like a brand new 2015, like nothing's going to be wrong with it. And they kick themselves every time, because they actually tried to get into real estate and want to buy rentals now. And they're like, we should have kept that. Like, the biggest regrets we ever talk about is the deals we wholesaled that we should have kept as rentals.
Yeah, no, I look back and I look at everything I flipped, and I'm like, man, we have a pretty good rental portfolio right now. And there's some stuff that I'm like, holy cow. I remember saying no to a wholesale deal that was $75,000, and that house now is worth 400,000. And I'm like, I'm not buying this for 75,000 because I just sold one to another client for 73,000.
Yeah.
Like, this is overpriced. Right. And, at the time that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That 2,000 or 3,000 bucks or whatever it was. But you look back and time and inflation is just so forgiving in real estate. And really that's where you make a lot of money, is off of appreciation, right? You definitely want it to cash flow, because if a water heater goes out or something goes out, you need a little bit of a cushion. But the magic of real estate is, I can guarantee anything you buy, unless, there's a nuclear war or something crazy, it's going to be worth more in 30 years. And if you put a tenant in there and it gets paid off, like, dude, that's the magic. Yeah. Is your tenant is building your retirement.
Yeah. And it's not that the house got more valuable. It's that the value of the dollar actually got less valuable. And that's really, inflation. I just did a show today that's going to be put out today, talking about inflation. And it's basically the money in the money supply has increased. And so the value of the dollar has gone down. So it costs more dollars to buy that same goods and services, right? Now, there probably is a lot of appreciation because we're on a run up in the housing market, but pretty generally houses go up 2 or 3% a year. They should keep with inflation really well. So it's protecting you in the future. And I guarantee, people in 2008, when the market crashed, that were getting ready to retire, if they had 3 or 4 years left, their houses still came back to the same price. How long did it take for the S&P or whatever to get back to the same price point? A long time, right? Yeah. And you had a tangible asset that you could still, even though the value went down, you still had somebody living in there paying you rent. So it doesn't matter. All these rentals, I don't really care. As long as I get good interest rate, I don't really care if the value goes down. I don't care if the value cuts in half. If I know the rents won't cut in half, because people still need a place to live, unless you said there's a nuclear war or half the town leaves, or which wouldn't happen. Right. It doesn't matter what the value is.
Yeah. It's amazing where inflation is taking us. And, I think if you ask anyone who bought a house 30 years ago and ask them what they paid, you'll be surprised, and then ask them what they think it's worth today. Right. So, that kind of leads me to my next question. What's the one thing that you would want to tell someone who's working towards financial freedom?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to go after financial freedom. We happen to choose real estate, right? So if you're listening to this show, you're probably thinking the same thing. That first rental my wife bought, she house hacked it before house hacking was a thing. She bought it, had one of her friends that she was friends with growing up move in and rent one of the rooms out for $450, and she was paying $550 a month for her stuff. So so I have a kid that works for me, and he's getting married, and I just helped him buy a fourplex. And it doesn't cash flow fantastic, but it will, right? Once they get out, but they're basically breaking even. And buying real estate and finding a way to get it done. Everybody can say, oh, interest rates are going up. It's going to be more expensive, all these different things. Buying that, any kind of real estate, and just trying to buy as much as you can and keeping it and trying to learn a little bit, you can have financial freedom. My dad always told me, if you buy one house a year for 10 years, and then for 10 years after that, you just take the cash flow and start trying to pay them off. And as you pay one off, you get more money, you pay the other one off. In 20 years, you'll have 10 paid for houses. Now, if you had 10 paid for houses right now in this market, in my market, the average would probably be $1,500 a month in rent, let's say, with the house we have. That's $15,000 a month, taxed at the lowest possible rate right now. If I would have done that, you can have a really good life, $15,000 a month. And if you need cash for anything, like whatever it is, you want to go build a new house, or you want to go buy something, that you could refi one of those properties and take the money out of that property to go do that as well. And you buy those things. So you have liquidity, you have things that are tangible assets that you can touch, you can feel, that as long as you take care of them, grow with time. Yeah,
totally. So
I think the key there is taking care of them. Like I said, I pull a list of, based off indicators on for marketing, and all these indicators are show that they should be really motivated to sell. I did this in Tri-Cities. Out of the 10,000 leads that I put in this sheet, my father was number one on the list with the most indicators. That looked like seriously, no joke. My dad is the very top of the list because he hasn't taken care of his stuff.
So that's why you called him a slumlord earlier.
Exactly. And he's not, great. He just but see, some of these guys have an opinion well, if I have to go spend $30,000 to fix it up and I'm only going to get $200 more in rent. Why do I care? He's 73. He doesn't care. It will take too long. But that's why we always fix them up when we first buy them. We put it in there, we buy them, now we buy them, fix them up, rent them out, and then refinance our money out. And then we don't have to worry about it, right? It's already done. So they have the new roof, the new windows, all those things. And so that's how we do it.
Yeah. So I've got a license plate behind me for everyone that's watching on YouTube. And it says BRRRR, right? That's the BRRRR method that you're talking about, where you can buy a distressed deal, fix it up so all the main components are there, right? And then you refinance once it's rented, and now the appraiser can go off of an appraised value instead of what you bought it for. Yep. And a lot of the times you're able to leave a lot less money in the deal. Yep. Right? So
totally. Yeah. We just did this 2020 with the duplex in Vancouver, bought it for 200, put 80 into it, appraised for 395. We pulled all our cash back out after paying our lenders and all that stuff, all our cash out. Cash flowed $1,500 a month, and we had $120,000 in equity. We actually just sold that property because we wanted to put it into a multifamily deal. And the tenants were kind of a pain in the butt and it's too far away, but we sold it for $440, 18 months after that. So so it's liquid, right? I can take that money and put it somewhere else.
Yeah, totally.
Semi-liquid.
Yeah. And that strategy is not right for everyone, right? Like a lot of times in our day and age, we've got social media, and, you hear me or Elliot talk about this cool method where, you can be into it for no money down, but it is a lot of work. And you and I were talking about this before we started recording, where there's a lot of people who they may have really good incomes, right? And if you're listening to this and you have a really good job that you like and you make great money and you're able to live on less than you make so you can invest the difference, like, I don't necessarily think BRRRR is the best way to do it, because, you've got a life to live. You've got family events to go to, you may have little kids. Like, buying and rehabbing and refinancing, like, it is a lot of work. It's a great way to go. Don't get me wrong. Yet there's a lot of people who it's not the best way for them. Right.
Yeah, totally. I have doctors and lawyers that invest with me, and they're busy. They're working all the time. They own some rentals. They understand real estate, and they've realized that they don't want to be the one doing it. One of my lenders, he's in an 8 unit with us. He brought in more cash than I did. I still brought in cash, but then we split the deal, right? He just brings in more cash because I needed cash at the time. That's the thought process. And I tell guys all the time that invest with us, if you go be really, really good at what you're good at and you can make more money, give me your money and let me be really, really good at what I'm good at. Like, if I'm me, and you flip the scripts around and, they're saying, oh, you could come be a doctor and make extra money or whatever. Well, I can't go do those things. That would not make sense for me to go try to do that. Real estate looks easy, but it is not easy. There's multiple challenges. Right now we're in a fastest growth of interest rates in 27 years. There's a lot of moving parts. The market is very on edge right now. So what's going to happen? There is a war in Russia and Ukraine. There's a lot of things and factors, right? And so you have to understand that. And then not only, so that duplex we got, that was a lead that I worked for 2 years. It was a great deal, but I worked it for 2 years. I have a direct marketing machine that goes out there. Like, my job is to buy properties at a discount, right? So you can't just be a doctor and go out, I'm going to go to the MLS and buy a property as a discount. You're not going to do it. It's not going to work, because guys like me are going to beat you all day long, right? And then not only that, I have contractors, I have all these things. There's a lot that goes into these things, lenders. So yeah, find somebody that you can latch onto in your market or not on your market. One of my lenders called me off my Bigger Pockets podcast. He's my best lender in the whole world. And he works for a golf company. That's my favorite golf company. And I get all free golf clubs every year. I get a brand new set. And so it's just a good deal. And I look out for their money like it's even more so than I would my own money, because they're entrusting you. So, and they're happy. They trust me. I call my lenders up and say, hey, I got this deal. They say, okay, send me the address and tell me where to wire the money. I mean, it's that easy. They just trust me because you build that over time, because I look out for them. Case in point, same lender. He's in one of our deals. It's a development deal. And if anybody knows, development and permits are taking a very long time. And I called him and I said, I gave him 3 options. I said, hey, do you want to keep going with this? If not, I have a lender that will buy you out of it. I hadn't talked to them. Option 2, I just paid off one of your friends that you brought to me as a lender. Do you want her to come in 50-50, or do you want to ride this out and keep going? He's like, no, I trust you. Let's go. Let's run with it. But I'm looking out for his best interest and giving him options all the time.
Yeah. It's way more about the relationship, right, than it is anything else. Because we've got partners in some of our deals as well. We just bought a 12-unit apartment complex that we're completely renovating most of the units. And it's a lot of work, right? We brought them in as equity partners, but I'm the one that's running up there, twice a week. I'm the one that's coordinating with my flooring guys, which I just had to pay. And, I had to pay the painters and, go and walk through it and make sure like, hey, this one wall didn't get done very well. Let's redo this wall. And there's just so much that goes into it: plumbing, electrical, HVAC. And at the end of the day, what do we all want? We want freedom. We want our money to grow. We want it to be safe, and we want to be taxed as little as possible. Hopefully at zero, right? Which you can do in multifamily.
Yeah, we actually got a very nice refund last year, and I probably won't pay taxes. We make good money. I won't pay taxes for the next 5 years.
Yeah, totally possible, right? Through the tax code, and it's all on the up and up, and it's great. So knowing what you know now, Elliot, what would you have done differently on your journey to, coming out of rehab and then, to where you're at now, financially free? You're a stay-at-home dad, your wife's growing the business. You guys are kind of, obviously growing the business together, but
I joke about I'm not full stay-at-home dad, but I did everybody's laundry last week and put it all away, my wife's and my son's. So, I feel like, us guys, when we do something like that, we really overinflate how much we just did. Right. Cause the women do it all the time. Right. And so I'm like, oh, look at what I did. I should get, but anyway. So, and I want to go back on one quick point on that deal. Okay. You had mentioned that you raised partners and you're doing all this stuff. Deals need two things. You need a deal and an operator, and you need money, right? Yep. Sometimes guys like me, we've bought 3 buildings in the last 10 months and we're $3 million in. I'm out of money. So I need money. But if I don't want to buy more deals, I need more money, right? We're operators. We have property management in-house. We have superintendents. We have design team. We have all this stuff. So I have what you don't have: deals and operations. You have what I don't have at this moment: money. So that's, if that's the case. If not, you can go buy one house a year, 10 years. There's no wrong way to do it, but time is valuable and you'll lose money if you're trying to do too many things. So that leads in very well to what I would say I would have done differently. I am very, since I just got diagnosed bipolar too. So I'm very hypomania. I can go and my brain works a million miles an hour and I can see the dream and the vision and I can push. And then I kind of go back down to the depressive side of it. But, I read a book that spoke about, it's very likely that majority of people that came from Europe to build America and why we built so fast was because people like me came over here. People that are just easy status quo, didn't want to leave Europe or England. They came over here for a better life. And that's, so I don't feel ashamed or anything, right? It's just, that's what we do. Andrew Carnegie, JP Morgan, all these guys were same thing. But I would do less things and listen to my wife more. My wife is that, when we got married, I knew that I needed somebody to tell me no, right? Because I knew that I too many ideas, too many directions. And so I probably would have listened to her a little bit more along the way. I like to go down every rabbit trail and would get frustrated when she would tell me no too many times. But I think right now where we're at is pretty amazing. I also probably would have worked. We've succeeded in real estate. In my mind, we're 30. We could have retired at 30, 4 years in. We could retire right now and have a great life, a very good life. But what we didn't do very well was work on our marriage, work on our family stuff, enjoy life, find hobbies, work on myself, do a lot of things that self-care, people in this society nowadays, which is changing, is they want to show, I work 50 hours a week. I work all the time. That's how people found value, right? That's how they value. When I worked at Fran's Bakery, it was like a bragging thing to say you work this much as a supervisor, right? That's how you bragged. Instead of saying, I can get this job done in 40 hours, they would say, okay, great. We'll add 10 hours more of work. So you're back with everybody else, right? That's changing. And I think finding more of that time to be able to sit outside for an hour without your phone and just be content. I think that's the thing that's really hard in today's day and age. So yeah, I think I would have worked more on that, and I would probably listen to my wife a little bit more. But all in all, we've done really well. We've gotten really lucky. I think we got in at the right time, made some great relationships, but very fortunate. But we've worked our ass off too.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think it's huge as far as just the being content, right? Because in our culture, and especially if you're anything like Elliot and I, we're always moving towards the next goal, right? Like if you keep walking towards the horizon, you'll never get there. And so a lot of times I have to remind myself that too, right? Where you have to look back at where you've come from and go, man, like this is really cool. It's cool what we've built. It's cool what we've done. But then there's also got to be that drive, right? Because complacency, it can kill, but yet if you don't have it, you'll never be satisfied. And if you go through life and, you can make all the money in the world, you can do anything you want, but if you're not fulfilled and you're not happy with those steps and just different stages in life, different chapters, then we're going to get to our deathbed and have regret. I read one of the books a couple of years ago, the top 5 regrets of the dying. Yeah. And, not being true to yourself was like the biggest regret a lot of people had, right? Not taking risk, not doing things. And so I'm just very maybe intentional on making sure, hey, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this because society tells me I need to? Am I doing this because, why am I doing it? Right. And then if it kind of meets our vision and our goal and where we want to go, then it's a yes. Right.
So I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. And, I had a dad, he's a genius. My dad's a genius. I was adopted, but he's a physician. IQ wise, he's a genius. EQ-wise, emotional side, he's not very smart. This doesn't, it's just very balanced. And he doesn't mean it in this way, but I could tell my dad, because he was all over the place too, entrepreneur, owned his own practices, all these things, made a lot of money, lost a lot of money. And I could tell him I made $10 million and he'd tell me how I could have made 100. And it's not because he's not proud of what I've done, but I've always viewed it that way, that it's never enough, right? It's always more was always what I was taught. And so I had somebody tell me a couple of weeks ago, man, you're really successful. And I just said, thanks, and I started thinking about it on my way home from that call. And it's like, we had just closed on that last 31 units and I didn't feel any happier. It was a challenging deal. I love putting deals together. I was more excited when I got the contract signed than I actually closed on it. I'm happy that I closed, cause that's, a hurdle, but what is it? It's just, 31 more units. I didn't need them. Right. And so it didn't make me any happier. And I was thinking about this and it's like, okay, something's got to change because I'm successful to the world in this way, but am I successful in my home? Am I successful to my wife, to my kid? He's up there in the picture. It's like, and I think I'm not. I think I'm failing in a lot of ways. And it's and I can be better. And it's like, but that's hard. It is so much harder. And people that have kids will understand this. You probably will as well. It's easier to go to work and do podcasts and real estate. It's easier to cold call and door knock anybody than it is to sit there with a 3-year-old and have him want to listen to the same song 10 times in a row and say, do you want to see this 10 times in a row? And being in the moment and not being on your phone, that's challenging. That's a lot harder than any of this stuff, right? Or going to dinner with your wife and not taking your phone and having a conversation the whole time. Those things are challenging. Society is instant gratification, scroll button, flip through this TikTok world. So it's, I think that's the next chapter, that I want to focus on in a lot of ways. So leading into that, buying 10 rentals and paying them off in 10 years and enjoying life while you do it, you're going to have a freaking good life. And that's the thing. You don't need as many as we have. You don't need thousands and thousands of doors. You just need a little bit to go have a really good life and actually enjoy it.
Yeah. And what's crazy is if somebody hypothetically had 10 paid for rentals, right? I've got a mentor of mine he's got 11 or 12. They're all paid for. No Taj Mahals in there.
I have a buddy that's a 25. He lives here in Tri-Cities. He's 44, 25 paid off.
Yeah.
And he retired at 30. He worked his butt off. But they're just middle-class houses.
Yeah. The cool thing is he's able to wake up and, his daughter's the same age as mine. And, he'd send me a picture at 11 a.m. and he's like, hey, I'm just having tea with my 3-year-old. Right. And I'm over here like pounding the phones, grinding, hustling. And, a lot of that brought me back to like, there's a lot of moments that we can lose out on if we're not aware of that. And we're always focused on what's next, financial freedom. And that's all well and good. Yet, we need to make sure we're not letting life pass us by.
They're only 3 once, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. My son says some of the coolest, funniest things in the whole world. He's a little negotiator like me, but he's only 3 one time. Right. And that's what my wife's a little frustrated about right now, because she's working a lot, running things. And she's like, I just don't want to miss these things. We're going to blink and he's going to be in kindergarten and I won't be able to do those things. So it's like, how do we hire people to make sure that happens so she can have time off? And that's why I'm trying to help more around the house so she can have more intentional time when she's home. But yeah, they're only 3 once,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my wife gets better looking with age. But like, so I can, she keep growing with her. That's fine. But like my kids only that age once. Right.
And, as they go through their development stages, like I'll look back in pictures from, when our kids were younger and just them developing and learning how to talk and falling. And, if you go back and again, parents will probably really resonate with this, but you go, man, like that was a good time. And maybe I didn't slow down enough to enjoy it. Right. And this kind of, I'll put a bow on it with this, but this is what financial independence is all about.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
You can make this decision like, man, we don't need to grow anymore. We can stay home. I'm maybe not necessarily wired to be 100% home all the time, probably always be doing something. I don't know if it's ADHD or what, but like we took 12 weeks off last year and just traveled.
Yeah. We did over 110 days. We were gone.
And
we might have worked a little bit in the areas we were at.
Sure. Totally.
Yeah. I want to interject. You're talking about old photos. So, and this is the moments that you just never get back. It was middle day. My son and I last year were playing in the front yard and he was in the dirt pit or whatever that we have. And all of a sudden I hear him starts crying or whatever. And I had put my phone away intentionally. Right. But I see him over there. I go over there and he's got dirt all over his mouth and on his hands. He had ate dirt. And so I ran upstairs to get this video, right? I get this video. So I watched it all the time. And it's like, he had ate dirt and he's like, spit it out. It was but he thought he could eat dirt. He found out he shouldn't, but it's like, what if I was at work and that was the nanny?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just little things like that you don't know when those moments are going to come. And it's like, they're so freaking cool. Right. What's the point of having money if, I don't know. And I'm more talking to teach, it's a hard concept, dude. Like you said, you could be at home. It's like, right now, I just have to be intentional. I'm taking the next 6 months and I'm not taking it off, but I'm in a spot where I can maintain. I have people that work for me. So I can just work from my phone and maintain and coach instead of being in the weeds. But it's like, it's a good timing in the market to do that. And it's a good timing in my life that it needs to be done and try to figure out some of those things. But, I couldn't do that if I had to work a job. I couldn't just go to my bread company and say, hey, I need the next 6 months off.
And if you didn't have passive income coming in and you had to make your mortgage payment, you had to make your car payment, your cell phone bill and put food on the table, like then you're forced, right? So financial freedom really for me is more about the options that it gives
exactly.
you, the fluidity, the flexibility, and you get to pick and choose what you want. And so that way, hopefully at the end of your life, you're able to, and no one's perfect, right? No one will ever be perfect. There will always be regrets, but you can at least say, I lived intentionally, right? Like, even if it was this one chapter, I did what I wanted to in that chapter versus, being a cog in the wheel and being forced to do what, I didn't necessarily want to do, stuck at a cubicle, whatever.
Yeah. When I worked at Franz, the management would say, as soon as these guys got their first route, because they pay good money, $70,000 to $100,000. As soon as they got their first route or they got another route, without fail, the guys bought a house or they went and bought, if they got a better route, they would go buy a new car. And the same was every time, got them. You're stuck. They're stuck. And they knew it. They encouraged you to go buy these things and get in debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what these people want. They want to enslave you to whatever it is you're doing.
Well, yeah. And not to rant too much about this, that's how our economy's set up.
Oh, totally. That's why school system's set up the way it is.
Yeah.
School system is set up. I was talking to my cousin, they stayed with us last night, 15. And it's like, he's got to be at school at 7 a.m. Right. But the school is, and you get in trouble. He's like, he gets referrals or gets tardies. The school system is built to teach you to listen, right? You get in trouble if you're out of line in class, but you show up at a certain time. You get told when you can go to the bathroom. You get told when you can eat lunch. You have to ask permission to do all these things. And you have to do all these assignments and do all these things. And if you don't do them well, you fail, right? What is that teaching you? What does that sound like? It sounds like a job.
Mm-hmm.
But what he had a buddy that was selling pop. He would go buy, cans of pop, and he was selling them out of a cooler out of his locker. This just told me the story last night. Selling them up for $1, undercutting the school and their pricing in the vending machines. The school shut him down. because they don't want people to do those things. And the school looks at it as, oh, we're losing whatever it is. You're causing issues. But what it is he's breaking the rules.
Yep. Or what, the normal should be.
Yeah. The normal, like that's, he's being a capitalist, right? You sell it for $2. I'll sell it for $1. Okay. So, but they don't want you to do those things. They want you to go get in debt, go to college, get in debt. Why do you think the debt's so high? And why do you think that you can't bankrupt on college debt? But they tell our age, what was it? Everything they had this whole like debt, all these things, path to college. Everybody go to college.
You'll only be successful if you go to college.
College people make this much more money. You only need to go to college if you're going to be an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or anything special. Mm-hmm. I watch so much. You can learn anything you want to learn on the internet for free, or maybe like there's a Skillshare site that you can go pay $10 a month. You can learn anything.
And the worst part is, right, like that lie never ends. They're like, hey, if you get a bachelor's degree, then, you'll make $60,000 a year. And I remember I just got my real estate license. I was going to school at night and I was valeting at the Grand America, which is a nice hotel here in Salt Lake where, like all the NBA teams come in. And so literally 3 jobs. I'm 8 classes away from my bachelor's degree. My daughter was just born. I'm sitting there and talking to my classmates about, like, oh, so-and-so got a job offer for $45,000 a year. And I'm over here like working 35, 40 hours a week doing real estate sales and I'm making 6 figures. And I was like, why am I here? I'm spending $40,000 a year on tuition, books, all the junk. I'm spending 4 hours a night when my daughter, like I could be reading her bedtime stories. Why am I sitting here if my peers are all going and they're getting a salary that's half of what I'm currently making, right? And by the way, me being self-employed, like I had kind of learned, hey, I can write business use stuff off, right? Like my business vehicles, they can be written off. My cell phone can be written off. There's so much that can be written off.
Every trip I take is a business trip.
Yeah. Because, if it helps grow your business, then it's a legitimate business expense. And I'm definitely not a CPA. So, but I would, what I netted, I'd have to be making 150. And so when I started thinking about it, I was like, hey, I'm really not learning anything that I feel is going to be useful. I still haven't used anything in my day-to-day life that I learned in middle school, high school, post high school stuff. So
I don't use any of it.
Yeah.
I mean, literally when I graduated high school with a cumulative 2.4. Only reason it was that high was because my freshman and sophomore year. Junior year, I was a 1.8. I didn't play golf the entire season. Almost got kicked off my senior year. When I went to the community college to play golf, I literally tested into all high school classes for all of it. Reading, writing, like 3 classes below college courses. I'm probably the richest, wealthiest person that has graduated from my graduating class by far. There was probably 600 people that graduated with me.
Yeah.
I mean, hands down, I'm pretty sure. I actually posted a video on my Instagram with my transcript. I went and got it so I could just see how bad it was. Like I didn't go to school, but and I didn't pay anybody. I didn't buy a course or anything. I just went, looked on the internet, asked people that I knew that did it, and kind of figured it out. You can.
Yeah. And all that financial freedom, just to put a bow on this, and then we can wrap up because I want to be sensitive to your time, but it's all because you've bought rentals, right? Like, yeah, you can generate a huge income, but I know people that are, making 700,000, 800,000, $1 million, $1.5 million a year, but they spend every single penny they make.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too, not just the rentals. We've always lived below our means. My wife and I just like, we lived in her 2-bedroom, 1 bath until we were pregnant. When we moved back to Tri-Cities, like an 800 square foot house, like we drove trucks and cars that all our cars were paid off. When we moved back to Tri-Cities, I golfed 150 rounds a year for 3 years and probably worked 10 to 15 hours a week. We made $400,000 a year just flipping houses, lived off of maybe 100 of it. She always told me that we lived off. She always said we spent more because I'm a spender. But she manages that. But we traveled, went to Europe, went to Asia for a month. I mean, you can do it even just flipping houses. But the thing about flipping houses is I have to go buy another house. I still have to go buy more houses. When you get the 10 rentals, you don't have to buy anymore. You don't have to do it. I mean, all you have to do is manage them. And even then you don't really have to do that. You can hire somebody to do that. So that's the difference. I still had to work 10 hours a week at that point.
Yeah. Well, Elliot, I've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing the wisdom with our guests. And is there anything else you want to share before we take off?
Yeah. If you like what I had to say, I'm on Instagram, Elliot Smith, REI. That's Instagram. And then I also run the Real Deals with a Z podcast. You can listen to me there. I interview guys, and I also do monologue shows as well. I'm a research nerd, so I actually dive into the numbers really a lot more and things. And I have a lot of opinions, but always open to new ones. So yeah. Give me a follow.
That's awesome. And guys, we'll post all this stuff in the show notes. And if you follow me on any social media, Elliot will be tagged in these little clips and stuff. So appreciate you, buddy. And
Thanks.
We'll talk soon.
Yep. Thanks, Matt.
Yep. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Financially Free Investor. If you found value in this episode or know someone who would find value in this information, please share with them, subscribe, and send us a review.